Hey guys, Bowie here, and today we're gonna talk about the best offlaner of this patch. Underlord was always a good hero, and in this clip you can get a great idea of why. Radiant has an amazing Roshan contesting draft with Haunt, Egg, and Primal Split. The thing is, especially in pubs where even high MMR players can jump the gun, Underlord counters most of that. Because of Dark Rift, Dire can easily move to their tier 2 tower, wasting all of Radiant spells, and in a game they are far behind, it's easy to see why they wouldn't stand a chance in the next fight, and the game is pretty much over at this point. If Underlord is that good though, why didn't Underlord see too much play before the patch? I mean, he got a couple of changes, but was it really that big? Well, in my opinion, the biggest problem with Underlord prior to 727 B and C is that a lot of his counters were somewhat popular in the last patches. The Gyrocopters, Ursas, Juggernauts, and even, Anti-Mage, to name a few, are or were decent heroes versus this bad boy. But things changed a little bit, and we're gonna take a look on a couple of lanes to see what happened. Guys, if there's one thing I'm proud of is not being a snake oil salesman. So you can just check for yourselves if you go to Dota 2 Pro Tracker, but Underlord right now has a 56% win rate. And I did mention some of the counters, like heroes like Ursa, but as you can see, Underlord actually has a positive win rate versus Ursa right now, 82 to 57. And that is definitely partly due to the nerfs Ursa got. But if you go all the way down, there's very few heroes that even get a positive win rate versus Underlord. AA is one of them, but he gets trashed in lane, as you just saw in the clip that I showed. And the only carry right now that has positive win rate versus him is Faceless Void, which, just goes to show how strong this hero is at the moment. Heroes like Slaughter almost have a positive win rate. Even a counter like Juggernaut has a 50-50 chance of winning a game versus this bad boy. So, yeah, this hero is ridiculously strong right now, and I definitely urge you to spam this guy if you want to get some free MMR in 727C. But let's get back into the video in the lane. But guys, remember, making these videos take a lot of time. I actually researched 6 replays in depth to make this video. So if you can subscribe, if you can like this channel, recommend it to your friends so that it does get recommended to more people. It definitely helps the channel to grow stronger. Thank you a lot, and let's get going to the video. Let's start with the hardest lane I could find, because no Underlord versus Void replays were available on Dota 2 Pro Tracker. And so, while Jug can kill Underlord in lane, he either needs level 3 and a support with as lower as stun, or he needs level 5. And because of that, the first 2 levels are actually a walk in the park for Underlord. Not only his base damage is crazy good, he starts the game by reducing Jug's already low damage, while he gets more damage with each dying creep. The damage is so high actually that IOTW feels forced to spin only to secure a range creep CS and harass him a little bit. But the end result is him taking a lot of harass when he tries to go for the next waves, because now he doesn't have that to avoid Firestorm damage. While one of the reasons for Underlord to become great is Soul Ring, now giving armor, since it makes him even better against early physical damage, in this game the first item he picks up is a Cloak, since it deals with the magic damage of Blade Fury nicely. And you're probably confused, since Boots is almost the same price and it allows him to disengage easier. And while that is true, this lane is very specific. Fatal Bonds will still deal magic damage even if Jug only spins on the lane creeps. So overall, he's still taking less damage by having the Cloak, and it's probably a good purchase against, Lich Jug, Grimstroke Jug, basically lanes where even Boots is not enough move speed to run away from the magic damage and slow that they have. From the replays that I watched, people are not really focusing too much on Pit of Malice, because if you're against lane dominators like Ursa or Juggernaut, the root doesn't really help you live that much, so getting more points in Firestorm or getting more points in Aura to try and dominate the lane are usually gonna be better for you. It really is a lane by lane decision, and I'm gonna talk about the skill build in every single lane that we watch from now on. Even though Juggernaut eventually kills Underlord at level 5 and later at level 7, Not only they're almost the same level when that happens, but Underlord is leading in CS by a pretty decent margin, and I mean that's in a losing lane. Let's watch more lanes though. Spectre is one of the most popular heroes of the patch, and he gets plain destroyed by Underlord. He's forced to dagger every range creep to get CS, and one crazy thing about this hero is that unlike almost every offlaner, because he has so much AoE this early, he can equalize pushing waves that would otherwise hit his tower. Yeah, he could tank this creep wave like some heroes do, but that is a lot of creeps and that would be a lot of lost HP. And even if he does that, it would eventually push into his tower if he doesn't have enough damage to kill a lot of creeps. And that means the lane would start pushing back to Spectre. Because of this Firestorm, he controls this huge wave and he can make it stationary under his tower, putting Spectre in a precarious situation. Watch how he keeps controlling the wave, this time by only using Firestorm after he draws aggro into the range creep and the enemy heroes. That yeah get denied, but since the lane is already where he wants it to be, this is a decent price to pay. He really wants to be careful about hitting the melee creeps with Firestorm, because this would mean he's just giving Spectre a free lane. Eventually though, because Mirana hits an arrow, the wave pushes, but that's okay. This is a lot of damage, and Spectre now has to use a salve and be really careful. Basically, Firestorm is really good in this lane because Spectre needs to be really close to the creeps he wants to kill unless he's using Dagger, but Spectre doesn't have a lot of mana, so he's gonna be forced into ferrying Mangoes to get daggers or Salve to actually tank some of the Firestorm damage when he goes for the creeps. It's just a really rough situation, and you're going to benefit a lot by learning Firestorm. Spectre is so weak that you don't need to reduce her damage a little bit more, like you already have so much more damage with level 1 aura, that you can maximize your Firestorm damage by learning a point of Pit of Malice, because this guarantees another wave hitting Spectre. So you do want to have Firestorm at 3 and 5, and maybe you don't need to learn Pit of Malice. I think it's kind of cool, but if you just want to max on the aura and harass her even more, that's on you. This can be a decent setup with the Mirana arrow as well, so I like what Kazu did in this lane. On top of all we talked about, this hero is also the king of contesting large camp pulls, since no one can sit under Firestorm, so he is pretty much a perfect fit against most carries in this meta. Morphling is another hero that gets countered the whole game against Underlord. Not only all of his damage is base damage, and so your aura cuts a ton of his damage, but Firestorm deals percentage based damage, which is one of the best ways to deal with attribute shift. If that was not enough, Underlord builds pipe and heavy auras to mitigate the bursting potential of Morph. But all of this is actually a small part of it all. Underlord counters Morphing lane as well. I really like the Ring of Protection in this lane, since all of the harass that comes from a Chan Morphling lane is physical. And I mean, Morphling doesn't really do any magic damage this early. Ring of Protection is also a component for your Soul Ring, which is amazing synergy. We talked about dealing with creep equilibrium as an offlaner in the other lane, and we can see a very similar example here. Watch how Underlord intentionally Firestorms away from the melee creeps and then follows Morph without drawing aggro. By doing this, he deals a lot of damage, but he also zones the Radiant heroes to get 2 range creep denies later on. The Underlord here just pressures a ton before Morph's level 3, because until that point, his attribute shift is total garbage. While Underlord loses a couple of creeps, none of those creeps got denied, so he's getting full experience, and now he's under tower being level 3 against level 2 Morph, which gives him the chance to harass a lot. After that though, he keeps the equilibrium just like the Spectre replay, and he makes sure to Firestorm only when the wave is about to push, because there was a pull by the Radiant, with the range creep being low. Morph is used to denying a lot of range creeps because of his fast attack speed and high damage, but here he only takes damage, and the Firestorm barely accelerates how fast the wave pushes because it was about to go forward anyways. One interesting change-up from this lane in comparison to the Spectre one is phase boots prior to the Soul Ring. Morphling like Jug has a way to escape Firestorm, and so Firestorm is a good way to harass Morph when he has to be under tower hitting creeps, but those are not that common. You can't just Firestorm Morphling and expect him to not move or to take a lot of damage. Phase Boots allows him to trade better versus Morph, even though he learns Firestorm level 3 at 5. Since he pressured Morph so much with the trades that we showed, eventually he's low enough that he dies when a big wave is coming, and that is another big strength of Underlord. The extra damage he gets from kills early really accelerates how fast towers fall, and this is a great thing to have in any offlaner. This is just a final showing of Underlord's power in the meta. We're gonna talk about item builds and stuff, the video's not over, but hear me out. 11 is playing mid Underlord, and he completely crushes this game. This hero just shoves waves too quickly when he gets so much experience early. And I think the real problem here is the cooldown that is honestly just too short. There's obviously better mid matchups versus this guy than a Puck, but because the mid lane is too narrow, Firestorm acts as an acid spray type ability that almost no one can ignore or withstand. So even counters have to eventually just accept they're gonna be farming creeps under their tower instead of being aggressive on him. 11 is able from level 4 to clear wave, then camp, then clear wave, and another camp. And as he gets stronger, he can do that to the enemy camps. Up to the point he has Atos ready and he breaks the game apart. This is not the focus of this guy, but it's another reason I am confident saying Underlord is right now one of the best heroes of this patch, and while he is known and popular as an offlaner, expect people to mess with this guy even further in the next couple of weeks. Right now, from what I gather, there's mainly two builds for Underlord. One that is tailored around auras and building what's needed for the game to take towers, and the other one focused more on killing certain heroes. So let's start with the killing build because I know that's what viewers like. In this game, even though Underlord is against a Juggernaut, he gets Atos, and while Atos is not great at killing Jug, it's amazing versus Morphling and Void Spirit. Void Spirit, whenever he needs to build a defensive item, he gets U-Scepter, not a Force Staff. And that item is trash versus the Atos combo because while it dispels Atos, it procs Spit of Malice when he gets back from the use, and it allows for the Radiant team to set up around him and kill him. Morphling can go Manta versus Atos, but that also means no E-Blade, you're just making his power spikes weaker. It's just a really cheap item that can counter a lot of heroes really hard, and notice that in this part of the game, they just grouped up mid to take a tower. Regardless of the build you go, this hero does this job amazingly well, but by having the item in a game like this, you can push much easier because you have a kill threat on cores, and so those cores need more heroes in this lane to properly defend it, and so they just take it. Now in this other game, it's much easier to understand why Atos was not an item Underlord bought. Phoenix can egg with Atos, Primal Split can be used with Atos, Spectre can haunt away, and so in this game, especially because they also have a Pugna, they can group as 4 heroes as Morphling farms, and all they need is to be able to survive whenever the initiation from Radiant comes, or just be able to tank enough so that Dark Rift procs and they can disengage after, attempting to get a tower. They force a lot of cooldowns and then they can just push again or smoke for a fight. But Underlord is a boring hero. He doesn't really do a lot. You just have to press your spells and press your items. So why is this really simple hero picked so much, and why is he winning so much? Well, honestly, it's all about Dark Rift and the possibilities that it allows your team. So in this game, for instance, you can see that Radiant kills Morphling in the top lane, but Underlord is bottom. So for an offlaner to be able to do what we're gonna see right now, he will need travels, and travels means he's worse at fighting, means he's more burstable. But because of Dark Rift, that's not the case. So Underlord defends this tower really well because he has Firestorm, and after he deals a ton of damage to Juggernaut and his healing ward is down, there's no way the Jug can actually threaten this tower enough to force Radiant back. And with the Dark Rift to the top lane, they are able to take tier 2 top and then the tier 3 tower really early into the game, even though the advantage was not that big. Underlord is also great at buying time. For instance, in this replay, they explode Morphling, and this is definitely gonna bring Ice to the bottom lane. And after that, Underlord just starts pushing the wave and hitting the tower, and almost no hero can do this by itself, even when it's a tanky hero. But Dark Rift forces heroes to this lane with almost no downside and no danger, unless you're doing something really wrong. And this not only buys time for the Underlord to grow, this puts a wrench into dire farming because now there's 2 cores in the bottom side of the map and there's not going to be enough farm for them. This spell is just really good, and there's like infinite ways to go about using this effectively.
I want to leave, man. I actually can't take how bad everything is.
Guys, I'm sorry for interrupting the guide, but I have a really cool update I'm excited to talk about. You ever felt like Arteezy playing a game?
Why do I get these players like the CM? Look, I click on him now and I just look at his items. I don't understand.
Imagine how he would feel if he also picked bad heroes on top of everything else. I'm here to tell you that besides the 20-minute weekly analysis I'm dropping in my Patreon to help you pick your heroes better during patch 727, I'm also offering a 20-page PDF file that includes what, in my opinion, are the best heroes of the patch for each position, and that PDF is going to be updated weekly. I know there are services that tell you what to pick, but they use global win rates that are usually quite misleading, and they don't account for lanes and roles, and very often can cause more harm than good. So check it out if it interests you. Just an update, I want to tell you guys that I already updated the files for 727B, all the talent changes, but we're still pretty early into the patch, so it's hard to remove a hero or add a hero without seeing how it's going to fare. But as soon as that happens, next Thursday, there are going to be heroes in the PDF files and out. I am really excited to keep updating this for you guys. We had a lot of good feedback and responses. Well, thank you for watching, commenting, and subscribing. As you guys know, these types of videos take a lot of research, so if you learned something new, please make sure to recommend this video for your friends, make sure to like and subscribe, hit that bell so the video gets recommended to you. If you want a more premium experience than my meta guides, you can DM me on Twitter to get the rates for my coaching. In case you just got back to Dota because of COVID-19 or the compendium, make sure to hit our Discord server. There's a lot of cool people there. You might find someone to play pubs with you in case you don't like doing that by yourself. Finally, if you want to see me play or cast, follow me on Twitch. And in case the weekly meta guides is not something you care about, but you still want to help with the channel, check the other tiers in my Patreon. There might be something that interests you there. Thank you for watching, have a good one, and bye.